not just as someone who spent my professional career going after cartels, watching the destruction in courtrooms, but as a mother facing this crisis with teenagers. I knew we had to think bigger. And so that drove everything I did, whether it was creating a transition team or how we were going to fashion Florida's plan. We immediately set up a statewide task force. We had a full report. We started engaging groups, full whole of government approach. And I was so excited to be offered the chance to be with you today because Florida beat the national average and continues to beat the national average in reducing our overdose deaths. And we did that because we said, look, this is a crisis like we've never seen. In the 80s, when Nancy Reagan first said, just say no, we lost, we're in a crisis by definition. We lost a little over 3,000 people in the United States a year to overdose. At the height, in 2023, we lost 110,000 Americans. Think of the difference. My concern was everybody kept using the term crisis like it had always been used, but nobody understood the magnitude of what we were facing. So Florida stepped up. We dedicated more resources to interdiction efforts. At the time, at the surge, we led the nation in interdiction of fentanyl. We pushed forward in making sure our first responders had naloxone in their hands. Every first responder, we gave it to them for free. And we also made sure that those that were suffering from addiction knew where they could go to get help. Real help, long-term help. Not fly-by-night shops that wanted to take money and then put them on their way. Because all three are important. And if you are a faith-based group here today who every day meets someone where they are and says what you have done does not define you, your life can still bring purpose and hope, thank you. Because interdiction will not solve this problem alone. And if I could just take a moment, watching the spirit and energy and drive of young people is a privilege of mine, and I've seen the change it can have in a way that when we as adults show up at a microphone and a podium can never have. If you are someone that's here participating in the first ever Fentanyl-Free Summit, the inaugural Fentanyl-Free Summit, and you are under 18 years old, will you stand up? Stand up, don't be shy. They deserve so much of our praise and encouragement for being here today. Thank you. Thank you. You are the kind of influencer this nation needs right now. You are a posifluencer. You're bringing positive messages to people your age, and we know, you heard from the Attorney General, who's doing a great job. You heard from the Attorney General right now that our kids are getting pills online. Often they're counterfeit pills. We know this. The majority are counterfeit pills, have a lethal dose of fentanyl, digital poison peddling. And they're thinking it's Adderall, other Xanax, other drugs, and it kills them. Parents are reeling, families are devastated, communities don't know what to do, and the only people that can get through to those peers are you, the influencers that are here today. And I don't know what drove you here. I don't know if it was your parents' encouragement. I don't know if you had a friend that overdosed. I don't know if your faith called you to be here, but for whatever reason, you are going to be the leaders moving forward in this nation. You are going to be the reason peers listen. And I wanted to thank you in this conference for including them. Because as the parent of a teenager right now facing all of the backpack issues that so many people around this, so many parents around this nation are facing every day, without a doubt, I will tell you, it's not the mom and the dad that reaches them. It's not the Attorney General of the United States of America that reaches them. It is kids their own age. So I am grateful to be here with you today. In Florida, we are proud of the success that we've had. It has been a whole of government approach. We led the nation in many of our law enforcement efforts, But we didn't do it alone with just state law enforcement. We worked with county, city, and federal partners. And I can tell you, as someone who used to be a federal prosecutor back in the day, the only way this works, the only way we're successful, is if our agencies blur the lines between defined jurisdictions, whether that's federal and state, or whether that's statewide and local. You have to blur those lines, partner with one another, throw out competition out the door, know that we all share a common mission, and bring together these other groups, whether they're nonprofits, faith-based, children's groups, education groups. It is the only way to make progress. I have to tell you, it has been my great honor to be the United States Senator from the great free state of Florida, because I get to continue this passion and this mission for fighting still the number one killer of working age Americans. One of the first bills I got to vote out of committee was the Halt Fentanyl Act. I stood there with President Trump when he signed that legislation. We got it passed in my first 6 months. It sat around for years prior to that. Florida was ground zero when we were fighting back against no borders, free-for-all. Ground zero, and we won. And now we're continuing that mission in Washington. I think it's so fitting that you're here for this inaugural summit in the state that led the effort in calling for the narco-terrorist organizations to be designated as such, that moved and pushed and pleaded with the last administration to declare fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction, and President Trump did both immediately upon taking office. But I want to commend Senator Graham for just a moment. This is the first thing I have done publicly since we heard the devastating news early yesterday morning. Senator Graham served on the Judiciary Committee with me. He was certainly one of the more senior members. For those of you that don't know, as Senator number 98 out of 100, I was the most junior member on Judiciary. One of the loudest, but the most junior. He was one of the first to push to naming fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. He was aggressive in calling out the cartel organizations, wanting them to be declared terrorist organizations. And he was very vocal and effective and influential in getting the Halt Fentanyl Act passed. Lindsey Graham's career in pushing to strengthen penalties against traffickers and keep drugs out of our communities, that is another legacy that many aren't talking about today. But I wanted, in this room, with this crowd, to remember that man and who he was and what he saw as a prosecutor and as a faithful public servant, and what he did in this effort to make this nation a zero-tolerance state for drug overdose and drug trafficking. So this morning, in saying thank you to you, I also say thank you to Senator Graham for a life spent protecting others and a life spent serving faithfully his country, and so many of you in this room who shared his mission. Thank you so much. I hope you have a fabulous, successful summit, and I am so honored and humbled you would invite me to join you today. Thank you so much.